Hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar, how to automate and transform your forms and label processing. My name is Phil Andrianos. I'm the director here, marketing director here at Cybra. So we'll get started right away. We're trying something a little bit different these days, shorter webinars. Try and keep them more or less about 20 minutes long. So that's the challenge for our presenters today, Chuck and Ken. So I'm going to pass it over to them in just a moment, but just a couple quick housekeeping notes. One, obviously you guys are muted and will be muted throughout the broadcast, but that of course doesn't mean that you can't get in touch with us. There's a chat feature in the GoToWebinar console on your right that you can send us any questions that you might have as the webinar goes along. We'll try and answer your questions as they come up, or we'll hold off on answering them till the end of the webinar. And if we don't have time for that, we'll of course have a representative reach out to you after the webinar to sort out any questions that you may have. The other thing, of course, this webinar is being recorded. We get to ask that a lot, and yes, it's being recorded. So if you have to head out early or if you want to rewatch it in a later date, we're going to be sending you guys a copy of the webinar so you can do just that. So I think that's about it. So I think we can get started. Today's presenters are Chuck Roscoe, our VP of Operations, and Ken Hunter, our Senior Tech Support Representative. So if you guys are ready, I'll pass it over to you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Phil, and thank you everyone for taking a short amount of time out of your afternoon or morning, depending where you are in the U.S., to check out today's presentation on how to automate and transform your forms and labels. And this is Chuck Roscoe speaking. I'll go over the agenda real quick, and then what I'm going to do in just a few minutes, I'm going to hand this over to Ken Hunter. He's going to be showing you live on our systems a number of these features and functions. So today's webinar, we're going to talk about making your formats smart. And what do I mean by that? I mean adding what we call conditions to your formats, adding tests and actions to them. All this involves zero programming whatsoever. It's all point and click, which you'll see Ken do. So your existing MarkMagic formats, you can make them smart. And no matter where you're running MarkMagic, I notice a lot of the folks on here are running MarkMagic on the IBM I, the AS400. We also have a handful of folks running MarkMagic PI for platform independent up in a Linux or AIX or Windows environment. Totally fine. Those are two flavors of MarkMagic. And what Ken is showing you with what we consider print transformer, this whole idea of rules and conditions is available on both of those platforms. So he's going to show you just how those work. And also some other kind of under the covers of some of the features that we're showing of turning fields on and off, and some other things you can do, and some other functions, what we call conditional groups, and how you can use those to your advantage. And also there's and rules as well, where you can have MarkMagic where it may just be outputting, hey, you're printing your label all the time over on a Zebra printer, but sometimes you want to PDF it, or maybe sometimes you want to print it on this Zebra printer and over to another Zebra printer, right? Or different printers. There's ways you can do that within MarkMagic without any programming or development effort whatsoever. Even checking the time of day, depending on the time of day, we have accounts do that where it's like, oh yeah, if it's the second shift, then you know what, just stop printing over to the system printer, instead send it to this printer, in the back room, your invoices or your forms. Again, no programming whatsoever. So that's what we're going to get into. I know Ken's going to show you mostly like a form, a MarkMagic form, and we call them formats. You can call them templates and all that good stuff. But it's basically a format. It happens to be like a laser form. It could be a label. It could be anything within MarkMagic where you can use these conditions and rule sets, so you're not just tied down. So we're showing you kind of at a high level, and again, Ken's going to show you a little deeper how some of these features work. So, and please, as Phil mentioned, feel free to ask us some questions throughout using that chat feature, and we'll get to the ones that we can. So I'll hand it over to Ken. Thanks, Ken.
All right, great. Thanks. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. If you were with us on the last webinar, maybe you recognize this format. We used it to show off the ability to bring in shipping labels directly on the form. this format actually has a shipping label at the bottom. You'll see it later when we pull up the previews and PDFs. But when we were doing the print previews over there, which I'll turn on right now, this form is an example pack list, like Chuck mentioned, stripping data from a held spool file connected to an AS400. And I can do a preview, and it toggles on, and this is live data from the AS400. It's a 2-pager. First page, if anyone noticed, a message popped up here. This whole bottom section disappeared, the totals, because there were no totals on the first page. But when we go to the second page, the message disappears. You can kind of see the ship label peeking up from the bottom. We won't get too much detail about that, but the total section appeared simply because there was a value in the totals. So we used this form last webinar. We decided we wanted to show in depth the conditions that were also there last time and show you how those work. So just those two things right now on this form. We've got that message popping up because something showed up here in the details. We'll explain that in a moment. And then the totals section down here disappearing and reappearing when there is a total present or not present. So turn off the print preview here and let's jump up here. So print transformer menu up here. It would be grayed out if you don't have the print transformer add-on option. If you do, then you'll see the menu up here.
I'm sorry, Ken, just a quick note there, because I forgot to mention, all of you have like the print transformer, all the what we consider add-on options to MarkMagic. They're all installed in all your environments, no matter if you're AS400 or PI. It boils down to an authorization key from Cyber to activate those options. So, and I have actually a good chunk of folks on the line already own print transformers, so you'd see what kind of showing you here in JMagic. But it's already there. Nothing new to download or anything like that. Just the key.
Put a key in, and then you can get right to it. So that message down there that was popping up, let's check that one out. So there's a condition on here. There's a few other conditions that are doing other things. There's the condition that handles the totals. There's a condition that toggles off some other wording involved with that label. But this is that item message. If we just take a look at it, two things: a test, something's being tested, and then actions that are performed if that test is true. So we can take a look at the test, and we're looking and seeing that it's testing a field group, because you can test individual fields, no problem. They're all listed here. Data and text fields all there. You can test job environment variables. What system am I on? What user's doing this printing? What printer device is the default printer device? You can have conditions. You can have your form totally change based on environmental variables. But this one here is the condition group. We're testing that. So basically, anything in this detail section, what I did is I'm able to actually select all of these, and you can right click and create a group, define field group. And I've got one already created, work with field groups here from the main menu. And it's just a condition group. So every single one of those text fields here is part of a condition group. And when you set up a condition against the group, so I'm back into the conditions here, we're basically just saying, is some value, does it show up anywhere in that group? So I guess you could, if you wanted to, set up a condition for every single one of these text lines. Does line number 1 contain 206? Does line number 2 contain 206? But you don't know where it's going to show up. So we create a group, test if that item number shows up, which is a mahogany desk, a very nice mahogany desk that we sell. So I'm saying, does it contain? But I mean, look at all of these things here. Does it not contain? Is it greater than, equal? Does it start with, end with? So a lot of options here that you can use for picking out that data. So we're basically testing the whole group for a certain part number or item number. And then after that, we're toggling on. So that message down there is basically always off. There's another condition. I didn't get too much into it. It's very simple, just always toggling off something so we can selectively turn it on later. So it's turning on the text fields. These two text fields, you can kind of see them there. But then it's also drilling deeper into the text field itself, allowing us to change attributes of the field. So not just toggling it on and off, which is great on its own. I mean, we've got people with forms just toggling entire sections on and off. But here we're actually able to drill down and say, change the font, change the point size, change the row and column. You can move it around on the form. This one's pretty simple. We're just changing the color. Checkbox off, color, blue. But everything that has a checkbox here is something that the condition can change from the default. So that's pretty awesome if you ask me. So we're drilling right down into the individual little attributes for every single field can be changed. So just to take a quick look at that condition in action again. Preview,
Yeah.
boom, blue,
Perfect.
turned on. Next page. Well, let me prove it to you. Sorry. There it is, 206, 755.
Exactly. Let's talk about this. We kind of put together just a small little use case for you folks. So it boiled down to this: like, okay, here you're this company, World Supply Corporation. You're selling all these goods, some furniture and whatnot. But you have noticed that people who buy your small double pedestal mahogany desk there for that part number, where Ken was kind of flicking, where if they haven't purchased a chair from you, it's like, it'd be great if they bought a chair. So what Ken did is like, you know what, let's just test all those lines of description for that particular part number for the desk. That's the second one from the bottom there. And if it shows up, then print that message in blue down at the bottom that says, hey, click here, which will show you in a little bit the finished PDF, like when you Adobe PDF this from MarkMagic, where you can actually click on it and then order it and all that stuff. So
That's very cool.
You've turned your packing list into a marketing and sales tool. That's just one of the many things.
Just think what you can do. Just even that simple little thing, toggling a message on, highlighting it, bringing different color based on something. So, and you can have tons of messages popping up all over the place and moving around and highlighting themselves. So this total section down here too, it's another condition that was added. And there's just a bunch of, so here's totals. It's just a handful of turn-offs and turn-ons. And then there's a couple issues with the lines. So we're basically just testing total. Is the total equal to blanks? And you can actually just leave it blank here when you set up your test. So is the total blanks? Then turn off the box, turn off the text fields, turn off these little lines. And then what you're left with is these other lines that will be stuck here. Well, we need to extend them down now. So there's a couple extra actions in here for getting into these line fields even, and readjusting their start row down to 5.3. So there's 3 of those lines, just little things. When I added these conditions earlier, and I turned everything off, I'm like, those lines, they need to move down. Oh, I can do that with conditions, easy. So preview again, you can see those lines just, you go over and they move back up. So really cool. So
without print transformer, you would really need to have at least 2 totally different formats, and you'd have to maintain at print time. Here, it's like this is the same exact print packing list you've been printing for the last 20 years, and you just made it smarter. So it actually looks so dynamic and can be even more dynamic than this at print time.
Yep. And even going back out there, I'll trigger a real quick print of this. I have a spool file on hold out there. I'm on my AS400 right now, and I've got a special monitor, print monitor, ready and waiting for this spool file to trigger it, and it's running. It's processed the PDF. It would send an email out. We'll get into that in a moment about how it actually sent the mail and created the PDF, but here it is, and we can open it up real quick and show you. PDF, 2 pages, totals. Here's that message on the first page. Hold on. Click to order. Let's see here. Oh, wow.
That's an expensive chair, Ken. I don't know. I mean, you're good, but I don't know. I'm not sure if Cyber could write that one off.
Well,
but that is cool. That was an embedded URL within the text on the PDF that the condition turned on. That was really neat.
yeah,
Yep.
URL links, very cool stuff. Yeah, so only when it's a PDF will the URL pop up there. So yeah, so how was that done? I mean, the printout that I just did, I just released a spool file, and normally that would go and just print to a printer, right? And you'd get 2 pages at your laser printer. Well, this was actually using the next thing we want to talk about, which is print rules. So the other half of print transformer, the first half that I like to go over, conditions, which is the field level stuff. Now this rules is higher level job control stuff, which is, you know, how something should print, where it should print. Should it be a PDF? Should it go to this printer only on a certain time of day or based on a user? So we've got a rule set out here. And these rule sets are separate entities. They're not, you know, attached to the format like the conditions are. So we've created this rule set. It sits out there in the user library, ready to be called up at any point during your print jobs. This rule set has a couple of things in it. The first rule in the rule set is testing a field that is part of the format. If we dig down a little bit deep, there's a lot of trees that you can expand open and a lot of freedom to create these rules to do anything you need. So within these options, this is the guts of the rule. We're basically testing customer email fields. There's a field on this format that contains the customer's email address only sometimes. Maybe some pages don't have it, some pages do. And we're testing it. And this one, same deal as the conditions. You can, you know, we are testing a field here, sure, for some data, but you can still test the system name, job, username, spooled file variables, physical file variables. You know, just think what you need, and we could probably do it with these rule sets. I need to test the time of day, the system environment time, to send the printouts to the back printer because no one's in the front anymore. You know, stuff like that. So this one we're just testing a field, cust email, which it's a, I don't know if you want to know how I got this email from the SQL database. We're actually pulling in this customer email address using a brand new feature in version 10, SQL. It's pulling this customer email using SQL statements from an Oracle database, believe it or not.
Yeah. From a PC running here in the back room, I think.
Yeah, because you know, normally that email is not on this form, but we needed it for this rule. So I said, hey, let's create an SQL statement. I can show you that if you want, but the email is getting pulled in. We're testing it for contains, @ symbol. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Starts with contains,
user imagination. Yep.
@ symbol. So obviously that's got to be an email address. So when it contains an @ symbol, change that print command to be a PDF email. So these are all the parameters that you would need to set in a print command to send a PDF email. You can have this happen automatically now, rather than you having to go into your program and say, oh, test this data. Is there an @ symbol? Call the MarkMagic print command with all these extra parameters now. How do we do the logic? We do the logic for you now. So set it to PDF. Create it on the IFS in a certain path. You can customize the path, give it a unique name like the customer number / or underscore order number .pdf. Send it to the actual email address that popped in as data, and then even customize the subject and message. So those emails were going out. If I go and check my email later, I'll have a couple emails showing up from Cybra telling me about my awesome mahogany desk. So that is the first rule, and that's even awesome just on its own. We've got a little extra tidbit here. So with these prints that would normally go to laser printer 01 or whatever, now some of them get emailed when there's an email address. Great, but Ken, that crazy Ken, he still wants the printout at his printer, at his desk. He doesn't want to get up and go and get the printouts now. He wants the one sent to his when he makes these requests. So we're also doing and rules here. So we're running the rule. Normally that would be the end of it, but we can reprocess again. So it's not like your program's calling us again. You don't have to run a whole nother print command. You can have another print command automatically get executed by simply creating another rule and call it ampersand print, or ampersand, whatever you want, just as long as there's the ampersand there. So and print, and we basically rerun the print job again. So we're doing a really simple one here. So and test, we're doing in the option, check the option here, test for the user. Is it KWH or Ken? That's me. Is the user equal to KWH? If it is, change the destination printer to PRT KWH. So we're basically, two things are happening. An email's going out, and if it's me printing, an extra copy gets sent to my printer. If it's not me, that's it. It'll go to the regular laser printer like normal. You know, very, very cool stuff. I think this kind of stuff can really enhance people's print jobs and take the whole load off of those programmers and not needing to, you know, dive into their programs and figure all this logic out themselves. It's all here.
Exactly. So again, just to say it again, it's not just AS400, but even the MarkMagic PI, this whole monitor here's monitoring scroll file. We can monitor like folders and directories with MarkMagic PI if a data hits it, even the IFS. We can watch all that and automatically create this output, this smart output, and going to totally different printers and emails. Yeah, there's an example of how it worked without any program changes. So it's the same stuff you've been doing, and now you can send it to 2 or 3 different places, or you can put it on hold. You can email it to yourself and so on. I know we're running short on time. I just have Giovanni asked one thing. I was just going to see if I can stump you for a second here, Ken.
Impossible.
So he's asking, he's like, if you could, so he's talking about the packing list. This is a good question, Giovanni. If this was like an e-commerce form, and say if it was going to an actual end user or to a customer, to a home, and it was a gift. So I don't know if they would order all this stuff as a gift, but we'll use the packing list as an example. And they don't, but they don't want the prices on there. Is there a way to like take like the prices off?
You'd have to, yeah, totally. So yeah, like when we did this here, we grouped all of these and they're their own group. I guess you could do, so like for a certain, yeah, we'll use this customer number up here, just something unique. You could technically group all of this. Let's see, yeah, you group it, right click, define group, condition group, and we just call them prices. Okay. It's all the prices that on the form. And then you could go up to conditions, drop a new condition in there, add prices off, set up a test. So, I mean, those tests can really be a lot of different things. Let me just pick that customer. Like all the PAP stores, like for example, you know, starts with.
Yeah, you're dealing just with the data we have here, but yeah, because you could have something maybe in the data that says e-commerce or maybe the fact that there's an email address or something like that. Anything that's, yeah.
I know that it starts with PAP, that's all.
Okay. Yep.
Just something to trigger it. And then add action, field groups, prices off. Just toggle it off.
Okay.
That whole group that I just made, that's in there now.
So if you were to do this print preview with MarkMagic with the live data, you would
print preview. They're gone.
There you go. Yeah, they turned off.
There's a line there. You can toggle the lines off later, but yeah. So just if another spool file came up and it wasn't PAP, then those prices would be there.
Mm-hmm. But you could test against like anything. We chose PAP.
Yeah, I knew.
It could be, and you could test about over multiple fields, not just one field. You could test the time, the customer, the ship to state, and all kinds of stuff, how it was paid for, like 5 things, and then do have actions on it. All right, so we already went over, so I'll stop talking.
Yeah.
Phil, are we okay? Should we finish up, or do you have anything you want to add?
Finish
here?
up.
I know, I don't want you yelling at me. All right.
All right, I'll try not to. I did see a pretty good question from Francie a few minutes ago. I don't know if you guys saw, but she asked if she could get the format that you guys are working on right here emailed to her, so she could just kind of check it out, the conditions and stuff. Is that possible or no?
I can export this, sure.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. So I think that
great.
then I can I'll add that to the email when I send out the recording, so everyone listening right now can check it out.
Awesome. All right, so let's wrap it up because I already went way over. So any of the other
Alrighty.
folks that have questions, please help@cyber.com. You can email there to sales@cyber.com. You can give us a call, whatever works out best, and we will get back to you immediately. Thank you again for the time. And Phil, I'll hand it off to you for.
No, I
closing
think
this up.
that's perfect. Yeah, thanks. And you can try out the print transformer as a demo anytime. And thanks for joining us. Take care, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
Alrighty. Yep.
You're welcome. Thanks.